Welcome to another episode of the Writing Expensive Words podcast. I know it's been a little while since the last one. If you're listening to these episodes as they come out, I have not been recording as many episodes because guess what? I've been writing. I've been going through edits from my editor. I've been formatting. I've been working like crazy trying to finish the old school series and also the Realize Your Story, Transform Your Life books, the teen edition and the adult plain edition. So that is what I've been up to. That is why I haven't been doing these episodes as often. But because I've been working so hard and also because I've been having some cool things happen in my life, which I'll talk about in a little bit, I've been thinking about you and I've been writing down ideas for episodes. And I've also been testing out some really fun things that are going to help you write better stories. Uh, Coming later this summer. I mean, it's just going to be like an explosion of content, which I'm really excited about because it will not only be all my books that are coming out, but it will also be finally a Write Fewer Words, Tell Better Stories is going to come out. And with that, all of the crazy, amazing things I've been working on, including a course on dialogue, which tells you exactly how to write dialogue so you won't have any more crazy questions. Not that your questions are crazy, but dialogue is hard to write. So I created a course about that. I also have a masterclass coming out on mindset. It's a 20-minute masterclass because I kept getting feedback from people that the storyteller mindset might be a little bit too long for someone who's just trying to do like a quick mindset reset. And so I'm going to be coming out with that. And that's something that turned out awesome. I finished the script for that last week. And then I also am coming out with a master class where I show you 5 classic pieces of literature and what it would look like if we rewrote the first page, the first 400 words, or 400 to 600 words based on today's market. So I'm really excited about all these things. I've been working hard. I haven't disappeared. But today, on today's episode, I want to talk about why writing expensive words doesn't mean writing complicated things or complicated feelings or complicated ideas, because there are so many simple things in life we can learn about. And I've been listening to some albums that I hadn't listened to before. And I started thinking about the process, the things that these artists are writing about and singing about. And I was like, these are really simple ideas. Why don't we talk about that? So that's what we're going to learn today, is that it's not that everything has to be complicated for those words to be expensive, and that it's good to embrace simplicity. So let's dive into what that means. Okay, first, I want to compare 2 music artists who I haven't heard a lot of people compare, but just stick with me. And yes, my musical tastes are pretty eclectic. So I want to talk about Tyler Joseph from 21 Pilots, and I also want to talk about Taylor Swift of Taylor Swift, the Taylor Swift. And the reason that I want to talk about them is they both have put out new albums recently. Taylor Swift released 3 albums, I believe, so far, or 2 albums in 2021. She's like putting out a ton of stuff. And then 21 Pilots just came out with Scaled and Icy, which is their new album, which is very different from any of their past albums. And the thing is, they're both, these musicians are both storytellers. That's why I'm obsessed with them. That's one of the reasons why. Also, they're musical geniuses, both of them. And but the thing that ties me into it, and the thing that I believe they have in common, is their exquisite use of storytelling in music. Their songs are not just songs, their songs are stories, their songs are experiences. And in the case of Tyler Joseph, he writes songs that create a narrative. For example, if you've listened to the album Trench, it's one long story. It's what we would call a rock opera, even though it's not necessarily rock. So it's one of those things where you're thinking about how you're listening to a song, right? And this is what my process is like when I'm listening to a song. I'm listening to it, I'm thinking about it, and I want to know like what the motivation was. So then I listen to it, I decide what I think the song is about, and I go read about the person who wrote the song. And that's what I do with stories too, right? Like I read the book, I come up with my own opinions and my own guesses as to what motivated the author to write those words in that story. And then I go read an interview with them because that's like that's how I am. It's my job, right? To be able to take a story and be like, is this what you're doing? Because I help authors. That's like, I have to be able to read something and like put the puzzle pieces together so that we can finish the puzzle. So it's like a game that I play with myself. And if you are interested in understanding storytelling better, this is something that you too can do is you read something, you try to figure out what the meaning is, and then you go look at the what the artist has said about the meaning behind the piece. And it's not like I don't get bummed out. I'm like, oh, I thought this was this thing and it's wrong according to what the artist says. No, that's what's great about art is that there are multiple interpretations. But I want to understand if the feelings are similar. I mean, as you figured out with me, I want to know about the feelings. And that's why today I wanted to talk about how, yes, we're using expensive words to write. That's very important. That's the best way to connect with the reader. However, we don't need to always use complicated things in life to create those expensive words. So expensive does not mean complicated. And I know I'm always telling you dig deeper, look for the multiple emotions tied into any single experience, but sometimes experiences are just sad, or sometimes experiences are just happy. And something really awesome happened to me this week, and it made me think about this topic and about you and your writing and my own writing is that my niece was born and I got to hold her for the first time yesterday. And as I was holding her, I wasn't thinking about all these multi-layered emotions I was having about how it's so cool to be an aunt or a tia, and how my brother has grown into this man who loves his family and all these things. Like, I wasn't thinking about any of that. Do you know what I was thinking? I was thinking I felt happy. And that was it. It was simple. Like, I was thinking, she's warm, she's soft, she smells good. This is a really cool moment in my life. And that was it. Like, I wasn't like, this is a cool moment in my life because of this or that. Or I'm feeling this complicated layer of regret for not being around when my niece's older sister was born. I didn't feel anything but happy. It's simple. It's a simple feeling, and the simple observations I made about my newborn niece are still meaningful, even though they're not complicated. So I want you to think about these things when you're writing, because I was listening to all of the new songs on Scaled and Icy by 21 Pilots and trying to figure out the different stories. And some of them sound really deep. Like, for example, there's this song No Chances. And if you don't want to know what the song is about, according to Tyler Joseph, I'm gonna tell you, so don't listen to this part. But I think you'll be interested because it applies to our conversation. And so No Chances, like at first to me, it sounded kind of like almost like sending soldiers off to war. And there's like these deep brooding male voices. And I've never heard anything like that from 21 Pilots before. So I was like, gosh, what is this song about? Is it like a protest about the war in Afghanistan? Because there's so many young men and women who are injured and killed, right? And that's like a personal thing for me is I know someone who was there and experienced a lot of trauma and had friends die. And so I was thinking that was like the first thing that came to my mind. And then I went and looked it up because it's this idea of like there's no chance, like the deep voices are coming for you. You're not going to get out of it. And I looked at what had motivated Tyler Joseph to write the song, and he said he was motivated by student athletes. And I was like, "What? That doesn't sound like that matches with this idea at all." But then, of course, he explained himself and he said that, he feels like these kids they're so young, they're working so hard, and they have all this pressure on them that is like completely unavoidable. And I was thinking about, I'm like, yeah, he's right. There is a lot of pressure, and these people are so young, and they're basically a lot of times wrecking their bodies in order to be able to do this thing to make people who they don't even know happy. And it's a strange dynamic, but it's so simple. It's such a simple thing, like a football player or a runner or someone who is young and they're doing a sport and the crowd is like cheering at them. So I was like, yes, this is still a good song. This is a simple idea and that's the thing. That's what I want you to understand. Simple ideas can turn into profound art because a lot of people are like, this song is like the most interesting song on the album. I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like there are maybe two or three more that resonate more with me personally. But nonetheless, that is how some people feel. And it's about something that's simple. And also, if you've listened to any of Taylor Swift's new things, it's all about storytelling. It's all about simple stories. But these songs create these profound ideas inside the head of the experiencer, which is you, which is me, right? So it's it doesn't have to be so complicated. Like if you want to write a scene where someone is doing something simple like cooking a meal and they're enjoying cooking, that's good. Like you can be artistic doing that and also that's relatable, right? You can't I know I'm always pushing you to write more difficult scenes that are hard for you and that spend you emotionally because that's my thing. And I know that that is what's going to make your work so powerful. But you cannot fill a book with those kinds of moments because it's exhausting for the reader. You need simple things in your story too. And simple things can be beautiful. Simple things can be wonderful, whether that's because they're sad or they're happy. You have to balance out your book, and that's something that I'm working really hard to do in my own projects, especially in the old school series, which I am like up to my eyebrows in edits right now and trying to make everything work and loving this story so much, but also being a little bit sick of it at this point because I've read through it so many times. I had to work with an artist on the covers. I'm going to do a whole episode about that. But like getting them to look just right, getting them to sound just right when they're talking in the book, figuring out the dynamics of the group, understanding their family dynamics with their individual families, the nature of the challenge. Like it's a lot to juggle. And that's why as writers, we need to insert simple moments into our storytelling because the reader's already juggling a lot. And that is our goal, right? Is clear communication when we're writing. That is the thing that will keep someone reading or stop someone from reading is whether or not they feel confused or overwhelmed. So, yes, we do need those moments where there are complicated emotions and there are complicated things for the characters to deal with because that's what makes them grow. But we also need to show the side of life that's more simple and that also is enjoyable to read and it gives the reader a break from having to think so hard. And that doesn't mean that our writing is any less when we're writing those moments. That's what I want you to understand, that simple ideas are great to write about. And just like if I was going to write a scene about yesterday and holding my niece for the first time, I wouldn't use all this complicated language. I would just be like, I should have written a piece, right? For for this episode, I could have done that. But I would just say, her the little swirling hair on the top of her head uh moved as she breathed in and out. And the smell, she smelled sweet and sour at the same time, which is the most amazing smell to me, and a little bit salty, right? If you've ever held a newborn baby, those simple smells are overwhelming in a good way to where you're just like, how can this little creature be here right now? And they make these little noises and their fingers and toes are so tiny. I was looking at her ears are so small. It like the ridges, like it's something so small but so detailed. So I would just try to write something where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to describe all the details, right? Because that's over description, but I'm going to pick something. This is what we do. We pick a detail, we attach emotional imagery to it, which doesn't have to be a complicated emotion, and then we use that to connect with the reader. So I would mention that it was my first time holding a newborn niece of mine. Like it was the first time I had been there for a family member and been able to connect with them at such an imperative moment in time because I used to live in Europe, so I missed a lot of things. And just simply being there with them, that is a miracle for me. That was something that I hadn't experienced before, and so it felt special. I mean, it would feel special anyways, but it's just you have to, like, pick the thing. So I would probably pick her ears because of their tininess and because of their cuteness, because that's what we think when we think of babies, puppies, anything small, right? We're like, "Oh, they're so cute, kittens." I'm work there's a kitten in the first scene uh of Nia is Old School, so I was thinking about that cat as a kitten and how cute it would be. And so you just need to think about what you can include in your story that's simple. Think about how you can connect one emotion with one image and give your reader a break. Give them something that they can read that is expensive to you in the way that it is an emotion that you felt, but that it's a simple emotion because expensive does not mean simple. And if you want to support keeping this show going, which does cost me quite a bit of money every year, you can go to patreon.com/expensive words and become a supporter. And you can also get into the group coaching calls with me where you can ask me questions and I will answer your questions real time about the project that you're working on right now. Hopefully, it's the story of your heart. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to the next episode where we're going to talk about my process, what I'm going through right now with my editor as I'm working through to the final product, which is a book, right? That's what we're doing. We write books, we write short stories, we make things with our brains, we get other people to help us fine tune them, and then we put them out into the world. And it's always scary, and I'm nervous but excited. And I can't wait to talk about that with you next time. And remember, as always, it is never too late to write the story of your heart. Happy writing.